Hi everybody, TechnoTenori here. If you're watching this video the day it's uploaded, January 19th, 2025, I've recorded this the night before on January 18th, that TikTok has essentially been banned. And whether the ban actually sticks and we are no longer able to log into the app, or we are just, waiting on someone like Trump who says he wants to either save TikTok or potentially give them a 90-day extension, as he has said when he takes office. And whether or not this is true remains to be seen. You might not even see this intro if something changes tomorrow. But I feel my point of this video is still going to stand and be very important as we go into this incoming administration and as we continue to use social media, continue to engage online. And what I want to address is sort of the blatant hypocrisy of big tech, CEOs, and the incoming oligarchy when it comes to their operations, their sort of dedication, quote unquote, their vow for free speech, and other aspects of their sudden heel turn to the Trump administration. And that all this ring kissery and knee bending is, frankly, either out of fear, out of profit motive, or they even genuinely believe these things, which, frankly, I don't think capitalists believe anything except for, seeing a number go up, seeing profits go up. So, frankly, it's probably because of profit. But more on that probably another time. I want to go through Mark Zuckerberg's recent video about the changes going into Meta's social media apps, like Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and sort of address the things that he's going to change, and that how some of these things are already starting to show a lot of holes, a lot of chinks in the armor, and frankly, I view a lot of this as a horrible, horrible thing, and is indicative of the upcoming administration. So without further ado, I want to watch this video and react to it as we go, addressing the various things he wants to talk about. So without further ado, take it away, Mark.
Hey everyone, I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free.
By the way, I have this video fast-forwarded slightly, about 1.5 times speed, for the sake of keeping this video as short as possible and not too long. I just want to get to my main points as quickly as I can, so I hope you understand. Thank you.
Expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on
prioritizing speech. We'll get back on that, because I think that's a very important point.
reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify.
So for community notes, if you don't know, community notes are essentially an amalgamation of people's various input online between hundreds of thousands of millions of users that will be put under a post, particularly on X, because that is a feature that is on X, formerly known as Twitter. And while I agree having this, I don't think it should be replacing fact checkers entirely. Because if you've been on X, and you've even been on Facebook, there is definitely a right-wing shift on X, especially. People constantly spouting misinformation. People constantly, lying for their own personal gain, even if it's just ordinary users intending to spread misinformation or even unintentionally and causing a lot of serious harm and damage. And I think fact checkers should be in that as well in order to actually get a full story, even through community notes or not. And obviously with X, things have definitely gone down the tubes on X. There's not a lot of good things I can say about X at this point. It's become sort of a ghost town of a lot of, accounts that just don't have ordinary people. They said they would fix the bot problem, but meanwhile, I get followers that are bots every single day of just pictures of random women I've never met before in my life. So that's one thing. And then also the blatant bias and favoritism of certain people's speech on X. And we'll get to more of that later. But there are a lot of things on X that have become essentially a taboo and that you just can't say them. Good example being the term cisgender, where you'll purposely be suppressed in the algorithm if you have the word cisgender in one of your posts. And frankly, I think that's stupid because cisgender is, actually a medical term. And we'll get more on that type of speech later, but I want to go to simplifying content policies.
Simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third,
simplifying content policy. I do want to look at that content policy. And other outlets have looked at that content policy. And apparently, you can call queer people mentally ill on Facebook without any repercussions. And, of course, I'm going to go right to the horse's mouth on this one. This is the Transparency Center on meta.com. And it says, at the top here, Tier 2, content targeting a person or group of people on the basis of their protected characteristics. Includes mental characteristics, including but not limited to allegations of stupidity, intellectual capacity, and mental illness, and unsupported comparisons between PC groups on the basis of inherent intellectual capacity. We do allow allegations of mental illness and abnormality when based on gender and sexual orientation. Given political and religious discourse about transgenderism and homosexuality and common non-serious usage of the words like weird. Let me repeat that. We do allow allegations of mental illness or abnormality when based on gender and sexual orientation. To me, it seems like they're valuing other people's speech over others. And this says nothing about the other way around. Honestly, if I were to go on Facebook and call Christians mentally ill, I might just get banned. And that is, frankly, one of the very things that is hypocritical in this sudden rightward shift that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to do. And obviously, this hits a bit personally because I myself am pansexual. And, coming to terms with my sexuality was a big part of my mental health journey. And, I'm a big boy. I can handle being called slurs. I can handle that. But the fact that in a social media app's policies, they are openly endorsing it and giving people essentially a pat on the back or a free pass to do it, that doesn't sit well with me. And frankly, if you have any sort of moral fiber, it shouldn't to you either. Let's continue.
We're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower-severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic.
So, new approach to policy enforcement. Obviously, with the previous information mentioned, it seems like they're going to be prioritizing other people's speech over others. And frankly, Well, I think the lowering of filters is generally good. It just means that if there's no sense of fact checking and there's only community notes of other people that support that misinformation, it's going to be expressed as fact in that community notes, and there will be no fact checker to actually check for those things. So, in a social media app where there's only community notes, where someone posts some sort of misinformation and everyone agrees with it, even though it's wrong, and then the filters aren't going to be there to filter it and help out and take out posts that are blatantly violating some sort of truth or policy, because they're not there. And frankly, that's also hypocritical. Bringing back civic content. Coming up.
For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams.
Hold up. So, bringing back civic content, that's all well and good. Just depends on what kind of civic content it is. Like, if I start seeing things, whether it's New York Post or Fox News, I'm probably going to have a few choice words for Mark Zuckerberg, because it seems like based on the current things I have either reacted to or retorted, seem to imply that there is a bias, despite them saying there won't be.
Out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas.
I honestly don't even have to explain that one. You're clearly moving from one bias to another.
As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited.
All right. I'm going to address the blatant hypocrisy here, and this is going to be my smoking gun for the argument. If we're so upset about other countries putting so many restrictions on American companies, why are we banning TikTok? And I want to look into one of those restrictions that the EU put on an American company, that being Apple. So if you own an iPhone, particularly one of an older generation, you probably have the Lightning port. The Lightning port is a proprietary port provided by Apple that allows you to charge your phone and transfer data. And if you think about it, with the rest of the world and the rest of the smartphone industry using things like USB-C, having a proprietary port is kind of, foolish. Because you're constantly going around asking for a charging port, and who knows, maybe everyone has USB-C. Obviously, in America, iPhones are extremely popular. They're the most popular cell phone. So there probably will be a lot of Lightning ports. But what if you don't? And frankly, the Lightning port is proprietary specifically for profit. So when your cable breaks, you have to go to Apple to get one. You have to deal with the fact that it is proprietary, and you can't just go to any other company for those types of cables. Especially if you want the highest quality cable, you'll have to go to Apple. And this is their way of nickeling and diming you, because they decide they want to have some sort of walled garden or exclusive proprietary port that limits and hinders the user experience. And the EU essentially put a stop to this by requiring Apple to have USB-C connectors in Europe, in particular. So obviously, in order to keep a lot of their customers in other countries, they changed it to USB-C outright. And I'd say that this is a fantastic thing, because it enhances the user experience, that Apple users no longer have to depend on a proprietary port, and they can buy whatever USB-C cable they want. So this is the type of, censorship and restrictions that these poor American companies, these poor CEOs, are experiencing under the oppressive boot of the European Union. Isn't that great? But obviously, this goes without saying that there clearly is a lot of hypocrisy here. There is a lot of, you know, there is a lot of corruption in American government. At least there's going to be. And the oligarchs, the CEOs, the big tech companies are corralling around it, either out of fear, profit, or they actually genuinely believe the bullshit of the right wing. We are approaching very unprecedented times. Not only are we reaching a sort of second Gilded Age with these oligarchs and capitalists communing with each other and kissing the Trump administration ring, if you will, we also have that aspect of right-wing talking points, rhetoric, and policy that is going to restrict the rights of people. We are in unprecedented times because this is a thorough combination of capitalism and fascism at work. And obviously, Donald Trump is the center of it. I feel like people forget that Trump was never a politician, and he was, in fact, a CEO of his own organization, a various conglomerate of different companies, and he is, in fact, a capitalist. He has a net worth at $6.8 billion, and apparently he claims his net worth is higher, but I'll just go with Google on this one because Trump seems to like to lie about a lot of things, especially with a lot of investigations on his speculative value of his property. And he even has the richest man in the world behind him. We are approaching an oligarchy. We are approaching an unprecedented time where capitalism and fascism are in bed together. And frankly, it's scary. It's so scary to the point where I'm not even scared of Donald Trump anymore, and I'm more scared of the people around him. And it's not even just his cabinet. His cabinet is pretty disgusting. Between people like Pete Hegseth, who is an abuser, he is a blatant racist, and he is an awful human being. You have people like RFK Jr., who openly peddle vaccine misinformation. And even when he criticizes the food we eat and how it's made, notice that he never criticizes corporations. He'll do everything to criticize the government, even though organizations like the FDA are bribed to have certain products be pushed through. Let's be perfectly honest here. So we are approaching that unholy combination of capital and authoritarianism. And frankly, it's scary. I'll tell you guys right now, take care of yourselves, take care of your family. Obviously, this is a bit alarmist, but I think it's important to take care of yourselves, your family, and I also think it is important to continue speaking out. Continue to address this bullshit so we can end up in a better situation 4 years from now. The next 4 years are going to be tough. I don't doubt that. But we can't bend the knee either. We can't just let it happen. Continue to speak out. Continue to be vocal. And continue to take care of yourself, your community, and the speech of yourself and your community. Because this whole thing isn't about free speech. It's about claiming speech. The capitalists and the fascists want to claim speech. They want to capture speech and keep it for themselves and prioritize their speech over yours. And that has been the game this whole time. Hi, little outro here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Obviously, it was a little intense, and I had a lot of long pauses at that point because a lot of this is obviously clearly frustrating. And I do mean it when I say that we should continue to be loud and vocal, and I will as well. And with this YouTube channel and my podcast, the Sereno Podcast, I intend to do that, at least in the microcosm that is the tech and gaming industry, where I want to, be that tech and gaming YouTuber. I review products, play games on stream and do all those other things, but I don't want to be that apolitical guy that doesn't address the bullshit. And if you would like to support me, I have a link tree down in the description, and you can follow all of my accounts. I also have a donation link in the description as well if you'd like to directly support the show monetarily. You do not have to donate if it financially affects you deeply. Please don't, if that is the case. But frankly, the most important thing you should do, subscribe to this YouTube channel, like this video so it reaches more people, comment on this video so it reaches more people, and also make sure to share it with anybody who would find this type of content interesting. Share it with your family, with your friends, with anybody who you think would get a kick out of this. I thank you very much, and I will see you guys on the podcast on Monday. Thank you.